Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more powerful, more unshakable, and more unstoppable than a woman who has healed, a woman who has walked through her storm, faced her pain, and decided that her past will no longer define her. She becomes a force this world cannot contain. A healed woman doesn't chase validation. She carries it within her. She doesn't need applause. She's found her peace. She's not moved by opinions because she's anchored in truth. The same fire that once burned her now fuels her purpose. When a woman heals, everything around her shifts. Her energy changes. Her standards rise. Her voice becomes clear, not because she's louder, but because she's finally speaking from a place of wholeness, not wounds. She's no longer reacting to what broke her. She's creating from what rebuilt her. A healed woman is not the same woman who cried herself to sleep. She's the woman who prays with confidence, walks with grace, and loves with discernment. She's learned that peace is not found in the approval of others, in the acceptance of herself. Her healing gives her vision. She no longer settles for half-hearted love, half-lived dreams, or one-sided friendships. She sees beyond surface level promises because her spirit recognizes authenticity. You can't manipulate a woman who's done the work. You can't deceive a woman who's met her pain face to face and survived it. When she heals, her lineage heals. Her children feel it. Her home feels it. Work feels it. Her community feels it. Because when a woman rises from her brokenness, she doesn't rise alone. She carries generations with her. That's why a healed woman is dangerous, because she embodies transformation. She walks in faith, not fear. She gives without losing herself. She forgives without forgetting who she is. She loves, but she knows when to walk away. She doesn't seek power. She is power, refined by pain, strengthened by truth, and guided by divine wisdom. So to every woman healing right now, don't rush your process. Every tear, every scar, every silent night, it's preparing you for the version of yourself this world has yet to see. You are becoming the kind of woman who cannot be broken again because you've already learned how to rebuild. There comes a moment in every journey when pain feels unbearable, when life seems unfair, when the weight of your experiences threatens to crush the very essence of who you are. You question the purpose of your suffering, meaning behind your tears, and the reason for your breaking. But it is often in that very breaking that transformation begins. Healing does not start when everything makes sense. It begins when you decide that pain will no longer define you, but refine you. Pain is a teacher that no one asks for, yet it teaches the lessons that comfort never could. It humbles you, strips you, and forces you to confront yourself. It makes you see what truly matters and what never did. It exposes the areas that were pretending to be whole. And though it hurts, it prepares the ground for growth. You cannot rise without first being broken. You cannot be strong without first being tested. Every scar you carry tells a story not of defeat, but of survival, resilience, and rebirth. Healing is not an overnight miracle. It's a sacred process. It's waking up one day realizing the pain doesn't sting as much as it used to. It's finding yourself laughing again, dreaming again, believing again. It's the quiet moments where you choose peace instead of chaos, forgiveness instead of bitterness, and hope instead of despair. Healing is not pretending the pain never happened. It's declaring that it will not control your future. When you begin to heal, you start to see your pain differently. What once felt like punishment now becomes preparation. You realize that every disappointment taught you discernment. Heartbreak built your boundaries. Every betrayal opened your eyes to the power of self-trust. Very moments that tried to destroy you are the same moments that shaped you into a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. Pain transforms into power the moment you decide to rise above it. Power doesn't come from ignoring your hurt. It comes from facing it with courage. It comes from saying, yes, I've been broken, but I am not staying there. It's reclaiming your story. It's looking at the same scars that once brought shame and saying, these are my proof that I survived what was meant to end me. Power is not about control over others. It's about mastery over yourself. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes next because you've already faced worse and made it through. Healing also changes the way you love. When you're still wounded, you love from a place of need. You seek people to fill the gaps in your soul. When you heal, you love from abundance. You stop begging for attention or approval. You stop chasing what doesn't honor your peace. You love because your heart is full, not because it's empty. You give not to be accepted, but because you are already whole. That kind of love is powerful. It's liberating, fearless, and pure. A healed soul is a dangerous one, not because it seeks to harm, because it can no longer be controlled by pain. People who heal become light bearers. They inspire others through their strength, their grace, their authenticity. They don't need to shout their power. It radiates naturally. Their presence alone carries wisdom that words cannot describe. They've been through the fire and come out refined. They've been to the valley and learned how to climb mountains again. Healing transforms pain into purpose. What once hurt you now serves you. You begin to see your journey not as a series of losses, but as a divine assignment. Pain that once silenced you becomes the message that sets others free. You find meaning in your suffering, not because it was easy, but because it birthed something beautiful within you, resilience, compassion, and strength. When you heal, you take back your power from every person, place, and situation that ever tried to diminish it. You stop waiting for closure from others and start giving it to yourself. You stop apologizing for your boundaries, your growth, your peace. You realize that healing is not selfish, it's sacred. Because when you heal, you no longer bleed on people who didn't cut you. You stop repeating cycles and start creating legacies. There's a power that comes from surviving what should have destroyed you. Quiet confidence that whispers, if I made it through that, I can make it through anything. Healing is the birthplace of strength. It's where warriors are made, not in comfort, but in challenge. It's in the long nights of self-reflection, the tears that cleanse your soul, prayers whispered when no one else is watching. Healing does not erase the past, but it redeems it. It takes what was once painful and turns it into purpose. You learn to thank the pain for what it taught you. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start saying, what did this awaken in me? You begin to see how every moment was guiding you toward growth, shaping your destiny, preparing you for the strength you now carry. When pain transforms into power, you no longer live as a victim of your story. You become the author of it. You write new chapters filled with grace, confidence, and peace. You realize that what was meant to break you actually built you. What was meant to silence you gave you a voice. What was meant to end you was only the beginning of your evolution. So don't curse your pain. Understand it. Don't rush your healing. Respect it. Because the process is making you powerful in ways comfort never could. The woman who heals becomes a warrior. She carries peace like armor, wisdom like a weapon, and love like a revolution. She doesn't need to prove her strength. It shows in the way she rises, the way she forgives, and the way she moves forward with grace. Pain is temporary, but the power born from healing is eternal. The storm may have shaken you. It didn't destroy you. You came out stronger, wiser, and more grounded. And that power, the power of a healed soul, is what will light your path forward and illuminate the lives of those who follow. Because in the end, healing is not just about feeling better, it's about becoming better. It's about transforming what once hurt you into the very thing that empowers you to walk boldly into your purpose. And when that transformation happens, you look back not with bitterness, but with gratitude, knowing that every wound had a reason and every scar carried wisdom. That is the beauty of healing. It turns your pain to power, your struggles into strength, and your past into purpose. And once that happens, there's no force on earth that can stop the light of a healed soul from shining. Confidence is not built from attention, approval, or applause. It is born from wholeness. It comes from knowing who you are beyond your titles, your looks, your possessions, and your past. Real confidence doesn't need to shout or prove itself. It stands firm in silence because it is anchored in truth. When you are whole within yourself, you don't chase validation. You carry assurance. You don't seek to impress. You move with purpose. The world often teaches us that confidence comes from success, beauty, or popularity. But those things are temporary. They fade, shift, and change with seasons. True confidence, however, is unshakable because it's not built on what can be taken away. It's rooted in who you've become through your healing growth. Self-awareness. When you reach a place of inner wholeness, you no longer depend on others to remind you of your value. You already know it. Wholeness is about alignment. It's when your mind, heart, and spirit walk in agreement. It's when you stop living in contradiction, saying one thing but feeling another, pretending to be fine while carrying silent pain. Wholeness is when you decide to stop performing and start living truthfully. When you live in truth, confidence flows naturally because you're no longer hiding behind masks or fears. You become authentic, and authenticity is the birthplace of real power. Confidence that comes from wholeness doesn't crumble under criticism. It doesn't shrink in the face of rejection. It doesn't depend on being chosen. Because when you are whole, you realize that being overlooked is not the same as being unworthy. You stop begging for a seat at tables that weren't built for you. You stop trying to convince people of your value. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that cannot hold the fullness of your spirit. Wholeness allows you to move differently. You start showing up with peace in your eyes and power in your presence. You walk into rooms with a calm strength that doesn't need to dominate or compete. You are comfortable in your own skin because you've done the work to heal what once made you doubt yourself. You no longer measure your worth by how others treat you because you understand that people's perception of you is not your responsibility. It's a reflection of them. When you are whole, confidence becomes your natural state of being. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's because you recognize that your path is sacred. You understand that timing is divine and that what's meant for you cannot be missed. You learn to clap for others without feeling smaller. You learn to stand alone without feeling lonely. You learn to rest without guilt. That's what wholeness gives you. Balance, peace, and the freedom to just be. Confident, whole person is not easily shaken by external noise. They can hear the whispers, the doubts, the opinions, and still remain centered. Because their confidence is internal. It's not built on fragile foundations like validation or attention. It's built on inner peace, on self-acceptance, on the knowing that they are enough even without recognition. That's why when a whole person walks into chaos, they bring calm instead of confusion. Their energy speaks louder than their words. But this kind of confidence doesn't appear overnight. It's built through seasons of breaking and rebuilding. You gain confidence when you face your insecurities and choose to love yourself anyway. You gain confidence when you set boundaries that protect your peace. You gain confidence when you stop tolerating things that drain your spirit. Every time you choose yourself, every time you honor your truth, every time you refuse to shrink, you strengthen the foundation of your wholeness. Confidence from wholeness also changes how you love. You no longer attach your value to who stays or who leaves. You don't chase love. You attract it through your peace, your authenticity, and your self-respect. You are whole. You stop settling for half-hearted attention and inconsistent affection. You desire connection that matches your growth, not your wounds. You don't confuse chemistry with compatibility or attachment with love. You love deeply, but you no longer lose yourself in the process. There's a quiet beauty in a confident soul that knows they are complete with or without company. Because wholeness doesn't mean isolation, it means independence. It means you are no longer afraid of solitude because you've learned to enjoy your own presence. You've learned that peace is not found in people, but in your connection with your own heart and your Creator. That kind of peace radiates outward, draws people who recognize your strength, not those who wish to exploit it. Confidence rooted in wholeness also brings humility. You no longer need to prove that you're better than anyone. You simply focus on being better than who you were yesterday. You celebrate others without envy. You encourage others without fear of being overshadowed. You understand that your light doesn't dim someone else's. It adds to the collective brightness of the world. Wholeness reminds you that confidence and compassion can coexist. Power and gentleness can live in the same soul. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I'm secure in who I am. When you are whole, you don't need to boast because your peace speaks for itself. You don't need to manipulate or impress because your authenticity already inspires. You don't need to compete because you understand that no one can take what was divinely meant for you. There is a power that radiates from a whole person. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. It's in the way they carry themselves, the way they forgive, the way they stay calm in storms that used to break them. You can feel it in their presence, the stillness, the grace, the authority. They've been through too much to be easily shaken. I challenge you, they've learned that losing people doesn't mean losing themselves. They've learned that rejection is redirection, and endings are simply transitions to something better. Confidence born from wholeness gives you the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. It empowers you to speak your truth without fear of being misunderstood. It teaches you that being true to yourself is more valuable than being accepted by others. It strengthens you to stand firm in your boundaries, your beliefs, and your purpose. When you become whole, you stop living for the applause and start living for alignment. You no longer chase what looks good. You pursue what feels right. You stop trying to impress people who will never understand your growth. You realize that confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Confidence that comes from wholeness transforms your life. It changes how you move, how you speak, how you love, and how you dream. It gives you peace in uncertainty, joy in simplicity, and strength in solitude. You stop waiting for external validation because you've already given yourself internal permission to be enough. You stop apologizing for your strength, your voice, your light. You stop hiding your greatness out of fear of being too much. Because the truth is, you are not too much, you are whole. When you are whole, you become powerful beyond measure. You become a living example of what happens when a soul decides to heal, to grow, to love itself back to life. Confidence doesn't come from having everything figured out. It comes from trusting yourself even when you don't. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to rise again. That is the essence of wholeness. That is the foundation of real confidence. And once you reach that place, nothing and no one can take it away from you. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she gets tired of chaos, tired of proving herself, tired of carrying what was never hers to hold. She begins to crave something deeper than attention, louder than applause, and stronger than control. She begins to crave peace. Because when a woman chooses peace, she is choosing herself. And that choice, simple yet sacred, changes everything. Peace doesn't come when everything around her is calm. Peace begins when she decides to no longer participate in anything that disturbs her spirit. It's not found in people, possessions, or positions. It's found in presence. It's in the quiet mornings when she breathes before the world demands something from her. It's in the boundaries she builds, the silence she honors, the stillness she learns to embrace. Peace becomes her priority because she finally understands that nothing she loses by protecting her peace was ever meant to stay. For so long, she may have confused love with sacrifice, giving too much, forgiving too quickly, staying too long in spaces that drained her. Healing has taught her that peace is not selfish, it's essential. She realizes that she can't pour from an empty cup. She can't heal others while ignoring her own wounds. She can't chase harmony with people who thrive on conflict. So she begins to withdraw from noise and choose herself, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. When peace becomes her priority, she no longer entertains arguments that go nowhere. She doesn't explain herself to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She stops trying to prove her worth and starts walking in it. Her energy shifts, her voice softens, her standards rise, because peace changes the way she lives, speaks, and loves. It teaches her that her presence doesn't have to be everywhere. It just has to be aligned with where she's valued and respected. Peace teaches her discernment. Not every invitation deserves her yes. Not every opportunity is divine. Not every connection is healthy. She learns to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, to pray before deciding. She learns that not everything requires a response. Everyone deserves access to her heart. Some battles are won by silence. Some victories are found in walking away. When she chooses peace, Her world may grow smaller, but it becomes richer. She stops chasing people who don't choose her. She stops begging for closure from those who broke her. She stops explaining her boundaries to those who never intended to respect them. Instead, she surrounds herself with people who bring calm instead of chaos, truth instead of gossip, presence instead of pretense. She starts attracting what matches her energy because peace has raised her vibration. Peaceful woman carries a different kind of power. It's not loud or demanding, it's steady and undeniable. You can see it in the way she moves, unbothered by drama, uninterested in validation, unconcerned with competition. She knows who she is and what she deserves. She no longer chases what she's outgrown. Her calmness becomes her confidence. Her silence becomes her strategy. Her peace becomes her proof of strength. Peace also changes how she views her past. She stops resenting the pain that broke her and begins to thank it for what it taught her. She realizes that every disappointment redirected her towards something better. Every ending protected her from something smaller than her destiny. Every loss was preparation for something greater. Peace allows her to see the purpose behind her pain and to bless the very moments she once cursed. When peace becomes her priority, forgiveness becomes her freedom. She no longer carries resentment like armor. She understands that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means release. She lets go of the bitterness that once held her hostage, not because they deserve peace, but because she does. She chooses to release the weight of grudges because peace feels lighter than revenge. Peace also redefines her definition of success. She no longer measures her worth by how much she achieves or how busy she stays. She values rest, stillness, and emotional clarity. She realizes that peace of mind is the highest form of wealth and a calm spirit is the ultimate luxury. She stops striving for perfection and starts living with intention. She stops needing to be everything to everyone and starts being enough for herself. Peaceful woman becomes a mirror of divine alignment. She trusts timing, releases control, and surrenders outcomes. She doesn't chase what's uncertain, she flows with what's meant. She stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "What is this teaching me?" Because she understands that peace doesn't come from avoiding life. It comes from embracing it with faith and grace. Her peace is her power. It guards her heart from emotional chaos. It shields her mind from negative thoughts. It protects her energy from people who drain it. It allows her to walk through storms with calm because she knows who controls the wind. She doesn't need to fight every battle, respond to every attack, justify every decision. Her peace speaks louder than her defense ever could. When peace becomes her priority, her love deepens. She loves without losing herself. She gives without expectation. She nurtures without exhaustion. Because her love now flows from wholeness, not from wounds. She's no longer trying to fix others. She's inspiring them by how she's fixed herself. Presence brings calm to others because she carries heaven within her heart. But peace comes with sacrifice. It requires letting go of people, habits, and versions of herself that no longer align with her growth. It means saying no to drama, no to manipulation, no to anything that costs her mental stability. It means walking away from good things that are not right things. It means trusting that what's meant for her will never require her to lose herself to keep it. Peace is her new standard. If it costs her peace, it's too expensive. If it drains her energy, it's not worth it. If it disturbs her spirit, it doesn't belong in her life. She no longer allows emotions to dictate her direction. She leads with wisdom, walks with grace, chooses peace even when chaos calls her name. Beautiful thing about a peaceful woman is that she doesn't need to announce her healing. You can feel it. Her peace radiates. Her smile is softer. Her energy feels safe. She moves like someone who's seen darkness and decided to live in light. She's been through storms that could have broken her. Instead, they built her. She's learned that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of perspective. So when peace becomes her priority, her life becomes her sanctuary. She wakes up grateful, not fearful. She speaks gently, not reactively. She walks confidently, not hurriedly. She prays more and worries less. She knows that peace is not something she finds. It's something she creates daily by choosing alignment over anxiety. purpose over pressure, and calm over chaos. She no longer fights for attention. She flows in direction. She no longer chases outcomes. She trusts divine timing. She no longer allows external noise to silence her inner knowing, because peace has become her foundation, her fortress, her compass, her crown. A woman who has chosen peace is no longer easy to manipulate, provoke, or break. She's not cold, she's centered. She's not distant, she's discerning. She's not weak, she's wise. And in that wisdom, she's found her greatest power, the ability to walk away from anything that disturbs her peace and still smile while doing it. When peace becomes her priority, she becomes unstoppable, not because she's loud or fearless, but because she's calm, grounded, and whole. Her peace is her revolution. Her calm is her crown. And her serenity is the proof that she's finally free. There comes a season in a woman's life when she begins to see differently, not through the lens of emotion, but through the eyes of wisdom. It's the moment when she realizes that not everything that glitters is gold, not every invitation is divine, and not every voice that praises her is pure. Through healing, heartbreak, and spiritual growth, she learns that discernment is not just a gift, it's her greatest shield. Discernment is the quiet knowing that rises when her spirit feels what her eyes cannot see. It's the gentle whisper that warns her when something is off. Even if everything looks right, it's the sense that pulls her back when her heart wants to rush forward. It's the strength that allows her to say no, even when yes would be easier. Discernment is her inner guard, protecting her peace, her energy, and her destiny. When a woman begins to value peace over attention and alignment over attachment, discernment awakens within her. She no longer chases every opportunity or entertains every connection. She pauses, she observes, and she prays, because she's learned that just because something is available doesn't mean it's meant for her. She understands that every door isn't an open door from God. Some are distractions dressed as blessings. Discernment keeps her from repeating old cycles. It helps her recognize familiar spirits in new faces. It whispers to her when patterns return disguised as people. It allows her to see the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between attention and intention, between effort and manipulation. She no longer moves based on flattery, she moves by peace. She doesn't get swept away by charm, she looks for character. Discernment has taught her that not everyone who enters her life comes to add value. Some come to test her growth. As she heals, her discernment sharpens. She starts to notice how energy feels, not just how words sound. She reads actions more than apologies. She notices consistency more than promises. And in doing so, she saves herself from unnecessary heartbreak. Her spirit becomes her compass, guiding her away from chaos and toward clarity. She listens more deeply, speaks more wisely, and walks more intentionally. Discernment doesn't make her cold, it makes her cautious. It doesn't make her fearful, it makes her faithful. She trusts that when her spirit says something isn't right, she must listen. She's learned that ignoring her intuition is often the most expensive mistake. Discernment protects her not only from others, but from her old self. The version of her that used to confuse attention for love, potential for purpose, comfort for peace. When discernment becomes her shield, she no longer needs to fight every battle with words. She lets her silence do the work. She no longer argues with people who twist truth to fit their narrative. She doesn't explain her boundaries to those committed to crossing them. She understands that discernment will always expose what's hidden. Time always reveals what prayer has already warned her about. Discernment changes her relationships. She stops giving access to everyone who asks for it. She becomes intentional with her circle, recognizing that proximity is power. She knows that the people she surrounds herself with either push her toward purpose or pull her toward distraction. So she guards her space, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. She's no longer desperate to be included because she's learned that alignment is more important than attention. Discernment also changes how she reacts. She no longer rushes to respond. She takes time to reflect. She's not triggered by every offense because she understands that not everything deserves her energy. She chooses her peace over pettiness, her growth over gossip, her silence over unnecessary confrontation. She knows when to speak truth and when to simply walk away. Because sometimes wisdom is knowing that not every battle needs to be fought. Some just need to be released. A woman who walks in discernment carries quiet confidence. She no longer questions every decision because she's in tune with her spirit. She can feel when a season is ending, even before circumstances confirm it. She senses when to move, when to wait, when to stay silent, and when to speak. She doesn't rely on signs or approval. She trusts divine guidance. That's what discernment gives her, direction rooted in faith, not fear. Discernment becomes her shield in love, too. She no longer confuses red flags for potential. She stops falling for words that aren't backed by action. She doesn't romanticize inconsistency. She loves deeply, but wisely. She no longer invests her energy in people who only show up when it's convenient. Her discernment allows her to see the truth even when her heart wants to deny it. She understands that love without peace, not love, it's bondage. Discernment doesn't only protect her from others, it elevates her within herself. It helps her recognize she's slipping into old habits. Fear is disguising itself as caution, or when pride is masking pain. She learns to check her spirit, not just her circumstances. She becomes accountable to herself. Her discernment refines her character, teaching her that maturity is not about age, but awareness. Through discernment, she learns that not everything requires her presence. Some seasons call for stillness, some call for strategy, and others call for surrender. She doesn't force outcomes anymore. She trusts that if something doesn't flow, it's not meant to grow. She no longer chases what resists her because discernment has taught her that rejection is often